Hello YouTube. I'm filming at a park. This is the only reason I am outside. Mostly because my parents... well, mostly because people are at home, so... no one in my family knows I make YouTube videos. So I don't want them to think I'm kind of crazy for talking to myself in my room. But today's video: why I hate Tumblr. And yes, I know, I said that I love Tumblr in my introduction video, but yeah. So basically, why I hate Tumblr. It's mostly because of the social justice people. It's a bunch of teenagers coming in, reading one article, or just knowing what they knew from other people, and deciding they know exactly what they're talking about. This happens all the time, and there's tons of false information that end up coming in to the argument. And then this just ends up hurting what the argument really is, or what the whole thing is actually about. And even with all these people that are just like 14, 15, 16, up to whatever, they still have no idea what it is they are talking about. And this has happened to me before, so I'm not innocent of this, but I mean, really? You read one article by CNN, saw 100 people say that, or saw 100 people say that this is bad, and then you decide you know everything about it. I mean, sometimes I just end up doing research on something, and it's like, oh, wow, Tumblr really isn't right. But if you're gonna say that something is not good, explain why it is not. Give me sources, unless if it's something that we all know isn't good. If it's something that is just general knowledge. If it's a proven fact. I mean, and then there's one of the instances where this happened was that people didn't like this one actor, so they were saying that he was a rapist. And that really isn't true. And I really do hate how Tumblr does that. I mean, I have seen posts that are like, here's why this is bad and here's 5 sources. That's good. Give me sources. Give me a reason. And I haven't seen... and usually when people do give sources, it ends up being... I actually really do like when people give sources, because it ends up being on something that someone wouldn't believe. Like, I saw one post about different things that happened in schools, and there was all these different things about different things that schools have done. And I really like that they gave a source for each one. And they gave the source of what had happened, the news source, not like Susan's blog. They gave the news source of exactly what had happened. And I really did like that, because that just showed that it was true. And it gave you a chance to be able to prove it. And I really do like that, because I was talking to my mom about it, and I said, hey, this happened, hey, all this stuff had happened, and she's like, no it didn't, get me a source. I'm like, okay, well, here's the source right here. And I don't know if she still believed me or not, or if she just thought like, oh, whatever, it's not it's not a real source, you have to look up 5 different ones. Because that has happened before. It's just like, oh, well, that never happened unless if 10 sources say it happened. Even though I've got like New York Times saying it happened. But that is one thing I really hate about Tumblr, all the social justice people. And they also get so overly sensitive. Like this one picture that went around, it was of Peter Pan and his shadow. And people kept on saying, oh my gosh, this is so racist, the shadow painted himself black. and they were thinking that, and they were calling it blackface, is that what it's called? I don't know. But they were calling it that, and he had painted himself black because he was a shadow. And there were people saying that it was racist. Or there's people, and they just get so overly sensitive. I mean, they're saying, like, don't let another 50 Shades of Grey come out, because it's horrible. But any adult who watched it, I mean, the problem came from teenagers or very young adults, where they were just like, oh yes, Christian Grey, he's perfect. And then there was some stuff with the franchise where they just tried to make Christian Grey seem like this perfect hero, just like a prince and stuff. But any adult who watched it, any adult who read the books, they knew that it was not a love story, that it was abuse, it was rape, and it was just horrible for the girl in it, whatever her name is. And any adult that reads the book will say that. Adults that see the movie, I saw a review of the movie that said, this is why I like the movie. And it was by YouTuber Benton. And he talked about he liked it because it had a good storyline, and it showed that it was abuse. That Christian Grey was abusing the girl, whatever her name was. And he liked that it showed that, but he's also an adult, and he knows that he's mature enough and old enough to know that it is abuse. And this movie was rated R for 18 plus because simply because they didn't want 15-year-olds walking in and seeing that. But there's all this stuff where Tumblr gets overly sensitive. And, like, also with the interview. They got overly sensitive about the interview, and I saw the interview. It wasn't something to get offended by. Unless if you were the leader of North Korea. I mean, then I could see you getting offended by it. But that's only because he's the leader of North Korea, and it showed that how ridiculous everything was. But it was not offensive. It was comedy. And Tumblr just seems to find the most problematic things where there isn't any. Or where it's just something, it doesn't even matter that it's problematic. Or you have to really be analyzing it to see it as problematic. Now, I could understand them getting mad if the movie was sincerely racist, but it was not. I mean, if you thought it was racist, just tell me, but it did not seem racist. It did not. From what I saw, it was not offensive. It was not problematic. It was comedy. And there are forms of comedy that could be seen as more problematic. And there is comedy that is problematic, and there's comedy that is not problematic. But not all comedy cannot be problematic. I mean, and sometimes this could be problematic, this could be problematic humor is put into stuff to lighten the mood, to make it not seem so serious. I mean, Onision, he's a good example. You've seen his videos. He does that quite well, where he will use humor that could be considered offensive, or stuff like that, to just lighten the mood. And if you watch any of his videos on cutting, he does do that. He uses kind of problematic humor to lighten the mood of it, to not make it seem so serious, that he gets to the end of it and say, hey, I'm gonna be serious now. And that's what I sincerely enjoyed about his videos. But really, Tumblr, stop labeling everything that has one problematic scene as problematic. If it has a character that is racist, that does not make it problematic. That makes the character problematic, and that does not mean you have to say you hate it. If they did not get someone good to act, if they did not think of it right, that does not make the whole thing problematic, just those people. So Tumblr, just lighten up. Do some research. Stop getting offended so easily.